Good evening, snooker fans. Welcome to the latest episode of the 15 Red podcast with me, Scott MacArthur, here in County Tyrone in Northern Ireland, and my co host, freshly returned and refreshed after her recent sojourn at Alexandra Palace, Kellie Barker. Good evening, Kellie.
Hello, Scott. How are you doing? Yes, it was a great week at Alexandra Palace as always for the Masters, and a great way to celebrate 50 years of this great tournament.
Yes, tremendous tournament. You and I were saying off air, it's one of the best Masters we can remember for a long time.
I think so, yeah, and a very worthy winner at the end of it, and Sean Murphy played so well. But I think what made it such a good week is that there wasn't a bad match all week. I enjoyed every single minute, and yeah, I think Kyron did well. Judd played well. He just you know, dipped a little bit at that semi-final, but every match was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed Mark Williams and Ding near the beginning. Neil Robertson on the very first day, 5-1 down to John Higgins. No one saw that coming, I'm sure. Um, but yeah, a thoroughly enjoyable week, and really puts me in the best mood now for the rest of the season leading up to Sheffield.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go backwards from the final because otherwise we'd run out of time. But just on the final, Sean Murphy and Kyron Wilson, would you say the two best players of the week?
I think so. Yes. I mean, I was at Judd's first round match against Hawkins, where he really didn't put a foot wrong, um, and he looked very good. And I did think I did think his name was possibly on the trophy again, but he didn't quite play his best in the semi-final. But I think that yes, I think across the week we got the two best players. Sean was on fire really, and the 147 was the icing on the cake. And Kyron again was looking like a world champion. He's having a
He's having an absolutely marvellous season. He really is. He's uh,
but
he's having a
absolutely,
tremendous time.
yeah. I think by the time Sheffield comes round, I certainly wouldn't put Kyron out of the running, despite the Crucible curse to contend with. I think he's got as good a chance as any this year, and it'll be a very interesting watch.
Well, bit of an early call there, I thought, but definitely worth it. I think if anybody could break it, it could be Karen, but obviously we wouldn't discount Sean because I mean nobody really saw this coming for Sean, did they? I mean, there's been no real form to speak of this season. Yes, he got to Shanghai, but that was back in when was that last August?
Yes, what I would say is I possibly didn't see it coming that he would win it, but I do think Sean's form has been better than a lot of people think of. Many tournaments this season, he's lost to the man who's gone on to win it, and a lot of times as well, he's actually played pretty well, and he said himself that the form has been there. He's just lost to a better player on the day. So I think not necessarily this week, but I think this form was coming at some point. I think the thing for Sean that there's a bit of a shocking thing is he's actually number 19 on the 1 year list. And so he's got work to do before Sheffield to just automatically qualify. He could be in he might have to go to Pons Forge and the qualifying setup. So but he will have qualified for all the Players Series events, which guarantees ranking points. So I think it's going to be very close by the time. And he could, of course, go on and win a ranking event and put all that to bed. So,
Yeah.
you know, interesting times for him ahead.
Yes, I mean, if there is such a thing as a downside to winning the Masters, it is that yes, you get £350,000, but because the Masters isn't a ranking event, you don't get the equivalent ranking points. So as you say, he's 19th, so he's all right for Hong Kong, but he's actually outside the Players' Championship standings at present because that's the top 16 on the 1 year list. But
Well,
hopefully he'll put that right.
well, actually, Scott, I think 19th is on there's so many ranking lists to keep a hold of at the moment. But I think he's actually in the top 10 of the 1 year list. So he is looking okay for the Players Series. I think 19 is the provisional world rankings.
Oh
So
yes, the 2 year
that
list. Sorry about that.
yeah, there's so many ranking lists to, like I say, got to keep on top of these days.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm sure all he's got to do is keep winning. He's got the form there now. He's got the confidence with Peter Ebdon, who I think's been a great addition to his little team.
yeah.
And I do think, in all honesty, I would be surprised if Sean ends up having to qualify for Sheffield. But I think for a couple of days now, he's just going to celebrate and enjoy this win because winning a triple crown again after 10 years, I think he deserves the odd glass of wine.
Well, yes, he probably does in that sense. Uh, Going back to the semi between uh, Murphy and Allen, now we'll get to the maximum, no doubt, in the course of this part of the conversation. But what did you think of the overall standard of that match, maximum aside? Because I actually thought that Mark was the slight favourite there, because I thought that Mark's sort of rather slower, more tactical elements might have slowed Sean down, but not a bit of it, clearly.
Well, I thought Mark played really well all week, and maybe like Judd did in his semi final, wasn't just quite up to his best in that game, but I think Sean was very much the deserving winner. Um, like we say, that the 147 was the icing on the cake, really. But I thought both played well. I don't think Mark's got much to worry about with his form. Obviously disappointed. You get so close to one of the major finals and not to quite make it. But I thought Sean played really well, and as he was all week, really. I don't think many people would have beaten him. So I don't think Mark Allen could really have too much to be disappointed about, apart from the fact that he did lose.
Yeah. Um, and I mean, we've got to mention Sean's rest play. Now, I mentioned this to you off air. Do you want to give the number out of how many rest shots he actually played?
Oh, I think was it something like 51 or something? But yeah, incredible standard. I mean, I think over the last few months, even Sean had said that maybe Kyron was the better rest player, but I think now people might have to concede that Sean is actually the better rest player because to go through a whole tournament and not miss one all week with the rest, just incredible.
Tremendous, tremendous. Um, my thoughts on Sean Murphy, Mark Allen. As I say, I thought Mark was the slight favourite, just because basically I thought that Allen would slow um slow Sean down a bit, but clearly not a bit of it. I mean, Sean couldn't be stopped really. There was no way. And I have to agree with Stephen Hendry. It was probably one of the easiest maximum breaks I've ever seen in terms of, the fact that there was no, difficult shots or no deliberately sort of difficult shots on the entire break.
I think so, and just the fact that that his cue ball control was so good as well that he made it look so easy. We could all put the balls in a good position and we wouldn't all clear up like that. That obviously it takes the skill to do it, but I think Sean himself said the pressure was on a bit after missing the 147 chance in the previous match as well. So I was glad for him he got it over the line that time because if he'd have missed another really good chance, then that could have been really disappointing. But the smile at the end, he was absolutely over the moon to do it, and yeah, the Ali Pali crowd to see a 147 as well. Yeah, they were. It was exactly what they wanted.
Yes, yeah. I mean, 147s have become more regular nowadays, but they're still really, really special, and particularly at the Masters. I mean, that was only the sixth in Masters history, so a tremendous moment for Sean, and a good moment as well for Jan Verhaas because he's now refereed in all the world, the Masters, and the UK has refereed maximum breaks, and he's also done 8 finals, Jan Verhaas, which leads me on to something that we neglected to mention, I think, in our preview episode, and that was that the trophies named after the late Paul Hunter, of course. And Paul was a tremendous player, won the Masters 3 times, all of them 10-9, all in the old Wembley Conference Centre. So just to give Paul a bit of a mention, have you any memories of Paul's Masters triumphs?
Yes, I mean I watched all three of those at home on telly at the time, and I think the Fergal O'Brien final is on YouTube, and I did watch that once more in more recent times. But what a player he was, and who knows how many Masters titles he might have won if life hadn't been cruel. But it's great that his name's on the trophy these days, and yeah, he was just such a lovely guy. I think I got an autograph from him at Sheffield in one of my early years, and he was, he was when I was younger, he was the good-looking young blonde boy, and he was everything you'd want to look at. Really, and his snooker was so good as well. I mean, I'd love to think that he would have gone on to be world champion had he lived, and if he was still playing now, hopefully, I think he would be still top 16, and he would have loved the Ali Pali atmosphere.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's just I'm glad that he won it 3 times, and I'm really pleased that that trophy is named after him because it's one of the best trophies on tour. It's a really beautiful piece of crystal, and I'm glad that he's remembered so fondly these days.
Yeah, yes. I mean, to be honest, I always on the first day of the Masters, I always do think of Paul because such a such a shame and such a shame that he was taken so young, but a tremendous player. Moving on, just give us a bit of an overview of your experience there as a fan, because you were there for 4 days, and what was it like, sort of around the snooker, if you like?
Oh, it was honestly, apart from being at Sheffield, which is so deep rooted in my heart, it
Yes,
was the best. It was the best fan experience I've ever known. I think World Snooker deserve a massive credit for what they've done with the fan zone. Um, it got to the point where me and I was there with Chris, and we ended up just making sure we were at the venue early enough each day because we wanted to have a little game on the tables in the fan zone. There were smaller tables, there were full size table you could have a go on. It was absolutely tremendous. I didn't venture more than the smaller tables, but really, really enjoyable experience. Um, and then they had meet and greets with the players as well and some snooker legends. I was lucky enough to meet Stephen Hendry on his birthday.
yes,
So I got to wish him a happy birthday. So that made my day. I don't know if it made his day, but it certainly made my day. And
yes,
it was fantastic to meet Cliff Thorburn as well and get a photo with him. And it was a really funny quip from Cliff as well. As we were waiting in they had they had us all line up if you wanted to meet him. And he was on this like a platform. And as it was almost my turn to go up, I was just walking up the steps and he just turned around and said, "Oh, I feel like Santa." Watching all this queue of people lining up to see him. So it was so good. And if that's what they want to do, it would be fantastic to have venues where they could do this elsewhere as well, because everyone seemed to enjoy it. And even if you did have to pop out of the arena for a frame, you didn't really feel so guilty about missing any, because just being in that fan zone, you could play snooker all day. It was just, they had a massive big screen on the wall. You could watch the games. There was food and drink outlets there. I couldn't say anything more positive about it. Like I say, it was the best fan experience I've ever known since I've been going to the tournaments for, nearly 30 years now. Absolutely fantastic. And I made sure that we booked our tickets for next year, and we'll be back to experience that again. I already can't wait to get my hands on the green bays once more.
Yes, well, that's absolutely tremendous. I must say, it looked tremendous, but I was obviously watching at home here in Northern Ireland, and they, with various intervals during the week and so on, you had Ken doing a tour of the place, and the Eurosport boys did the same, and oh, it looked absolutely wonderful. And I saw some of your photographs on social media and so on. It just looked absolutely tremendous. I have to say, I was rather jealous that you got a photograph with Mark Allen, but uh,
Oh,
but
he was a
nonetheless,
great
it
guy.
was marvelous. It was marvelous.
He he's an absolutely great guy as Mark Allen, and I actually didn't realise that. I thought he knew me by sight because I've met him and spoke to him a few times. Um, and but over the as I walked up to him, he did the meet and greet, and as I walked up to him, he said, "Oh, hello, Kelly, how are you?" And which was lovely, and Mark Selby was the same. So everybody was fantastic doing the meet and greets, and like I say, I think if there was such a thing as a snooker heaven, I think I went there last week at the Masters. It was just so good. I loved every minute.
Well, just absolutely delightful. That does sound absolutely wonderful. Best match that you saw? I know you mentioned a few there, but if you had to narrow one down,
I think for the fact that they were so close, and 6-5-2 ding over Mark Williams. That was a thoroughly enjoyable match. You couldn't pick a winner between them until the very end. Really, I think Ding had a little bit of luck from 5-4 down. But there was nothing between them, and it was played in a good spirit. And I think that was just a tremendous game. Certainly, I was there for all the first round, and that was a tremendous match. But also to get the tournament started the previous day, Neil Robertson coming from 5-1 down to beat John Higgins 6-5. I know you're a Higgins fan, so don't want to rub salt in the wound, as it were. But Neil
yeah,
played tremendous from 5-1 down, and
he did.
it was a
He
it
did.
was a joy to watch, to be honest. And yeah, fantastic stuff. Because all the talk before it started was of Ronnie withdrawing at the late notice. But Neil was a fantastic replacement, and I think even the Ronnie fans would concede that Neil
Yeah,
against John was still a fantastic game to get the tournament
yeah.
started with. And yeah, it was really, really tremendous. Loved every minute.
Well, I'm so glad of that. But no, in terms of Neil and John, it rather reminded me of that tour championship final in 2022. It was rather torturous but glorious to watch Neil playing well at the same time.
Yes, I mean, the only thing I would say about this defeat for John is in some of those other defeats from well ahead, he has sometimes, had himself to blame a little bit and not taken all his chances. This time, I think Neil just played tremendous snooker. 5-1 down, he was as good as out of it, but he just started swinging and going for it, and they went in. And yeah, I'm looking forward to watching a bit of that game back actually, because I'd like to watch that performance from Neil again. It was so good. But although John would be a bit shell shocked, I think, on his way back up to Scotland, I think in the cold light today, he can't beat himself up too much because he didn't do a lot wrong. It was just that Neil was absolutely superb.
I know. And then obviously he ran into Sean uh, then after that, and basically nobody was going to beat Sean, but Maxim was saying Sean was flawless,
He
or
was, and
Maxim
it was
attempt to say it, I should say.
yes, yes. I think Sean will get over that now because he did go on to make one. But I think if he
Yeah,
hadn't have made one, that would have been one little regret from this week. But
yeah,
yeah, that was another good match against Neil. Both played well, I thought. But as you say, nobody was stopping Sean that day or across the week. He was just a class apart, really.
he was. He was. It was the. I'm going to be a bit bold, but I'm going to say I think that was the best I've seen Sean in the 20 years since he won at Sheffield.
Wow. It'd be hard to argue across the week. And I think Peter Ebdon adding Peter to his team has given him that bit of steel. I mean,
Yeah,
nobody had better nobody had better mental strength than Peter in his career. And maybe Sean is I think it's fair to say Sean is quite a bit more naturally talented than Peter, but maybe he didn't have Peter's mental strength. And putting the two of them together, they could be a real force to be reckoned with if they stick together over the next couple of years.
yeah, because it's like with Peter, you've got the sort of, rather more methodical, rather more sort of, what's the word, you know,
Measured
studied
approach.
approach. Yes,
Yeah.
measured approach sort of thing. Whereas Sean, you've got that sort of swashbuckling, sort of pot everything off the lampshade sort of mentality that he had in '05. So if you combine the two, it's just,
Oh, he could. I mean, we talk about that he might have work to do to make sure he's in the 16 for the Crucible, but I think if Peter's at his side for the rest of the tournaments, or at least he carries on doing what Peter has worked into him so far. He's a match for anyone in any tournament, and this might not be the last trophy for him this season if they carry on together.
no, indeed, no. Um, just before we move on very briefly to the Championship League, I was going to ask you, what's your favourite Masters moment in general? And you can't say uh, Stephen Hendry beating Mike Hallett in '91 because I know you've said that one before.
Well, that was the match that sort of introduced me to snooker, so that's always going to be a good memory. Um, One of the years I was at the final when Mark Selby beat Ronnie in the final. Was it 10-8?
Yeah,
And I think it was one at the Wembley Arena, funnily enough, which wasn't a loved venue, but
no,
they played out a tremendous final.
yeah.
Mark won. Was it about about 2009, 2010. It was one of those years.
2010, yes, 2010.
Yes, and they had a tremendous final, and I remember that final well, and because both were on really really good form, and it was great to watch all day long, and yeah, Mark won 10-8, I think it was, and yeah, I think that's certainly the best final of the Masters I've ever been to. Yeah, it was great memories there.
Yes, I think my favourite has to be 2006, I think. You know,
Oh,
jo-
yeah,
the the
the
famous
very last one.
64, the last one at the Wembley Conference Centre.
Well, that wasn't too bad either. Yes, that was a tremendous game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't regret it because I was a bit young and I didn't travel around quite as much back then. But I do wish I'd have sampled the conference centre once. I never went there at all, and yeah, I think that would have been a great place to go. But it's one of those things, and people actually say, maybe the Ali Pali is better these days. So who knows? But I would have liked to have kicked back and enjoyed a match on those big comfy seats they used to have.
Yeah. And
Um,
then just to finish off with, because we are running out of time, uh, we're delighted by the announcement of the extension to the BBC so-called Triple Crown deal to 2032. So well done or congratulations to the BBC and WST for that.
yeah,
Um,
delighted with that news when it came through. Hopefully, this means that the only for selfish reasons, I suppose, but hopefully this means that the World Championship might stay in the UK. Because I don't think BBC would want it if it was in another time zone. Um, so yeah, everything is positive and hopeful at the moment, and I'm really excited for the next few years because the BBC events or the so-called Triple Crowns, they're growing and growing every year, and there's more good things to come, I'm sure.
yes, well, a tremendous week. Congratulations to Sean on both the performance, the maxim, and the trophy. And we're looking forward, of course, to the German Masters next week. We'll be back with you. We'll let you know when we're back for that. And with that, I will say good evening to Kellie Barker in London, and good evening from me, Scott McCarter in Northern Ireland. Good evening to you all.
Bye.
Bye.